You're muted.
Am I?
Yeah, you're muted. Will you start an intro?
Yeah. I guess I'll. I guess I'll just restart it again.
Woo!
Dude, I need to get
Yeah,
like a new chord or
dude, it's
something.
funny because I was I wasn't even looking at you. I was looking at another thing, and then I look up and I just see you going, and I'm like, he's muted. Does he realize he's muted? Are we
Well,
live?
I guess I'll keep that in there. For some reason, I have messed up chord, so it auto mutes me. So I have to like unplug it and plug it back in. But hello everyone, welcome back to the Automata Podcast, where apparently I don't know how to podcast at all, but you can catch us live every single Friday, except for the rare occasions where we are live another day. But that's why you should follow us on social media to keep up to date on that. Friday's the usual date. You can catch us the following day also on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. But on that, thank you guys so much for listening. And whenever we talk about this episode, we would love to hear what you think as well. But how you doing, sir? It's been a while. It's been what, a week, 2 weeks almost.
Well, about yeah, I guess you say almost 2 whole weeks, right? Overall, pretty good. I haven't really acquired any new video game regalia or anything. I have kept playing a little bit of my Trinity Trigger, play a little bit of Cuphead, and not to bury the lead, but we all know One More Sleep. For those that know, it's Wednesday. I don't know when you guys are going to actually tune into this, but officially we are, depending on where you are in the world, one more sleep away from Tears of the Kingdom launching if you're going to be up at midnight, which I expect most people to be. So can't wait for that. That is why we're doing the pod early. Thank you for allowing us to do this because you are bending over backwards for me. So thank you for that. But yeah, nothing really new to flaunt, except I did finally receive my last reservation or pre-orders. I'm sorry for Pokemon cards for the Crown Zenith set.
Mm-hmm.
And to my extreme delight, I pulled, for the benefit of those that don't see this on the camera, but I pulled a Giratina VMAX subset card, which is, you could argue that it's probably the quote unquote Charizard card of the set. Fully graded at a perfect score, it probably goes for about $400. So, very excited to pull this one. I actually kind of want to get it graded.
You should really take a better picture and put that on Twitter because the just a little bit I see, it almost looks like it's like Cerberus a little bit. I know it's not Cerberus, but he kind of looks
Uh-huh.
like he has that look to him.
Well, this is the origin form, I believe, and it's like actually like the art. It's supposed to be like upside down, and he's like crawling. I think it's hard to really show this, but it's like crawling up a tree, and this is actually kind of like um, a mosaic type of uh, art because you're supposed to put this together with Arceus, Palkia, and Dialga, and they're supposed to form like almost like a mural.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have the other ones, but that was kind of like my high for the last couple of weeks, but also pretty good one. I also went karaokeing with friends, went to the casino. Actually, had some luck at the casino, which I normally don't have. So I scored about $400 at the slot machine, so that's pretty cool. And yeah, just that's really been it. Season 2 for Warcraft started this week, so jumped on that. I'm also feeling like I might be fighting a bug myself.
Uh oh.
Yeah, I know. So don't. I don't know. Maybe we'll get into your details. I don't know. But
I
the
was
reason
gonna
why we
actually.
didn't do
Yeah.
the reason why we didn't do the pod last week is because you were sick and sick to the point where the podcast itself wouldn't be as great as it would be.
Well,
So
actually, it was to a point where I couldn't even talk for 2 whole days. Like I couldn't actually make a verbal sound. That's how bad my throat was.
yeah, so like today for me, I mean, I'm probably obviously nowhere near where you are because you could have said you couldn't even talk. But like today, I feel like, and this really just happened when I got home. Like I was fine all day, like right here in my throat. Like I could feel like, you ever feel like you get that little thing where it's like just sitting right on the edge and you try to drink and drink and drink
And
and
it just
drink,
doesn't go
hoping
away.
you could just knock it off that yeah, that's where I'm at right now.
Uh
So I
oh.
hate it. Yeah, I know. So I'm pretty sure I'm fighting something because yesterday I didn't have this, but I felt pretty fatigued. I mean, sometimes I'll feel like I like to call old man fatigue already, but like it was a different fatigue, right? It was like that fatigue where like, damn, I feel like I'm fighting something. So hopefully it doesn't evolve into anything serious. But if it does, maybe I might need an extra day off after the weekend. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Well, hopefully you're not sick because if I don't know what's going on because apparently a lot of people are getting this because
Mhm.
um a lot of people in my mom's work were getting sick. A lot of people I know personally have gotten really sick. It just I have a feeling it's something to do with the weather being so chaotic. Like it goes from like 30 degrees to 80 degrees back, and then I don't know. It's some kind of cold or virus, whatever. But
Yeah,
it sucks.
yeah. No, I really do co-sign that. I think it is due to that the very bipolar weather patterns our area has kind of suffered from for the last couple weeks. So um, yeah, other than that, let's see. Other than that, I don't really have much to add onto that. Now, well, obviously you had the sickness, but sounds like you had quite a bit to share.
So before I got sick, I've actually been going to a few places. Actually, that's probably the reason why I got sick because I was actually in a lot of open areas with a lot of people. We went to some meetups for oddly enough cars. I'm not a car guy, but for some reason I found a fascination with like old vintage cars because apparently we have loads of them in Chicago. I did
Mm-hmm.
that, but then I also went further out of my way because I don't know what's been on with me. I just been feeling like adventuring, so I've been going pretty far out of my local area. Um, Decided to look at two different disc replays, which is basically like movie, music, and video game store. A whole variety. Basically, what you don't find in your average like convenience store, like Jewel or sorry, Walmart, Target, Best Buy, whatever. So I went there. Then I went to Half Price Books, which surprisingly they have a lot of good books and also some pretty old games as well. Which I actually picked up some classics. I know you can see it right there.
He's back.
Frogger, which is one of my favorite games. I wish they had Frogger too. And then also Rayman as well for PS1. So while I was sick, I was able to at least have a little bit of a nostalgic kick while, I was recuperating playing some old games I played when I was a lot younger. Also been getting back into more fighting games. We talked about Soul Calibur a while ago, so I
Mm-hmm.
hunted down Soul Calibur and I decided to play it because I don't think we've had a new one since Soul Calibur 5, or maybe we have. I don't know, but I decided to pick that up, and then at the same time I was cleaning my room in my closet, and I found something I haven't found in a while. It's a
Mm.
TCG set of World of Warcraft.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even knew I had this. Like that's the weird part.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's complete in set, has all the cards. It has some actually well those that can't see it. It comes with like a manual and some like three big cards.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't even think I bought these, but when I found them, I'm like, oh, I guess I was part of the trend. I just wasn't smart to get more of them.
Yeah, those things are pretty cool because they're. I mean, I know you have appreciation of it. It's kind of like a big ass thick DVD case, and then it has, as you showed it, it has like all the different things inside of it, and they look, if you collected them and you bought like one of every expansion set or what have you, they look really nice on the bookshelf. But even I didn't even keep up with those things. Well, back then I wasn't making uh, anywhere remotely the money that I get now, and I could never afford it into the budget. So,
Yeah. Do you know what's funny is that have you ever gotten something and then you didn't even realize you had it until much much later, and then you're like, when did I get this?
oh yeah, for sure. Part of it is like, when did I get this? The other part is, oh, I didn't know I still held on to this. So it's kind of one or the other, so to speak.
I believe
But
this
this
card set's from Burning Crusade, so that means I was like, I,
probably,
uh, well, 2004. I was probably 9 or 10
I was
years
just, I
old when
guess,
that came
nine.
out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's crazy. Speaking of nostalgic games, I was watching one of our old co-host or guest host. I'm sorry, guest. Nightwing of Hyrule, and he was playing Final Fantasy Mystic Quest, which is a Super Nintendo game, and I was watching him play that for about. Unfortunately, it was like the end of his stream, so it was like the last hour, and that was nostalgic as hell. I was actually helping him. He got to the boss fight, and he's like, "Oh, I don't know what he's weak against." I'm like, been a long time, but I think you want to use arrow. And he's like, all right, use arrow. He's like, you were right. I was like, yes, I still got it. So it's amazing how like, so long ago, just those things just stick in your head. And yeah, it was great. It was fun.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna spoil it. I eventually at some point, very very soon, let's see if I can get him back on the podcast because he's also another huge fan of Zelda, and for
Yes.
some reason, I want to get a collection of people that appreciate Zelda, and once like a week or two after the game is like fully over, I want to have like a massive nerd out session with a whole bunch of Zelda fans, like Joel from Pixel Street, maybe John. I can't remember if he's much of a fan, but I know Nightwing of Hyrule is. I just love to like nerd out with a whole bunch of people on that.
No, that'd be awesome. It would be. Is there a way where you could like? Because if we had like a Brady Bunch thing going, like we had like 8 freaking squares and then the Zelda logo in the middle or something, and we all just had like a round table, and whoever wants to talk could be like, "Bleh," do a button and it lights up, and everybody shuts the fuck up, be like, okay, it's his turn. Or something. That'd be pretty dope. I'd be all in for that.
The overlay is easy. The talking over part is going to be the difficult part.
Yeah, that would be very.
But
That's what I'm
but
saying.
so
Like,
far,
but
I
I
only have
think
4 people in mind. That it's just me, you,
I,
and then them two because I don't know if any of the other people we've connected with actually like Zelda like we do.
well, outside of the podcast, I would like to think my buddy Rob would might be into that, but it would have to be a scheduling thing, and but I think he would be into that because he's the one I really talk to about Zelda all the time.
Well, if he
Outside
wants
of
to come
that,
on the podcast, he's more than welcome.
outside of that, I would have to think about that. But nonetheless, I mean, I think everybody that we mentioned and that we had on as a guest, in my personal opinion, would be humble and respectful enough to kind of, when the time comes, like, oh, their turn, their turn, their turn. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? Or what's your rebuttal? What's your rebuttal? So yeah, that's something we might be able to set up. But
Yeah, that's something
uh,
I'm gonna be working on in the near future. Not immediately after Tears of the Kingdom, but
yeah,
maybe like 2 weeks
no,
afterwards, like when everybody's got
yeah,
their fair
minimum.
like their game time in. But other than that, besides me going out there before I got sick and then recovering for a whole week and a half because I got hit really hard with whatever I got. Um, Free comic book weekend was also this week, which I'm not going to go too much in now, but I got to experience a whole bunch of stuff, which I'll talk about later on this episode. But that was really fun. I got to also go to, how do I say it? It was kind of like a walk-in convention because where I went was like 202nd something Lagrange, and they had like a little convention center where a whole bunch of people like dressed up in like costumes and stuff like that. And so I
Uh-huh.
got to see um, some people doing cosplay. There was actually some famous guy because apparently we have some game studios here in Chicago, and they were out there signing some stuff. So I got to go over there and just basically see what real nerd culture is about. And I thought that was pretty cool that my first day of actually feeling better, I was able to experience something cool like that.
Nice. Was that free and open to the public, or did you have to pay for that?
It was free and open to the public. That's why I was shocked. Like like when I
Mhm.
say there's people, I'm talking about like maybe like a minimum of like 5,000 people,
Damn.
and it was like all so how to say it? It's almost like a shopping center kind of thing, but like the parking lot was the kind of the convention center, and all the stores were in on it. They were doing sales, discounts, whatever. People walking in and out. They had tents, music playing, and they had people doing signing booths from the game studio. What was it called? um indigenous studios. They basically work on a whole bunch of like triple A games, doing either ports, support for big developers that are like low on something. So they did a bunch of things, like they worked on the Reignited trilogy, they worked on StarCraft, they worked on
I was like, that name
Deadpool.
actually sounds familiar. Like, I wonder if I have a game by them,
Oh,
or
you probably have. I mean, they
okay,
worked on
yeah.
World of Warcraft, they worked on Deadpool, they worked on Diablo 3 for consoles.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, sounds familiar.
yeah. But I got to experience
Yeah,
that and thought that was really cool. I wish I was feeling better because I was still like had a little bit of it, but most like it was like congestion, all that stuff. But overall, it was just a lot of fun, and I wasn't expecting to experience all that on comic book day. But I did
nice.
pick stuff up, but I will share that later though.
Yep, cool. Let's see. Da, 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 da. For so we have the three big topics. I don't know if we actually kind of bury that a little bit. But you had mentioned Comic Book Day. We're going to talk about Xbox Game Pass, and you know more about that than I do. And then favorite superhero slash or and fictional character. Those are our main topics for today. But for little mini topics, a couple I'd like to bring up. One would be Nintendo finally came out and just blatantly said, "Hey, look, guys, no new hardware this year. Maybe spring of next year." So I thought that was interesting. Instead of having everybody have to speculate on it. I really, truly, with them saying that, I really don't feel like spring of next year is even going to be something that'll launch, in my personal opinion.
I
Now that
think
they
they're
came
still
out and
three
said
years
that,
out.
I wouldn't go that far.
Well, the
I wouldn't
reason
go
why I
that
say that is
far.
because if you look at the market now, I think they're trying to figure out what their competition is. Like you got ROG by Asus, making their handhelds. You obviously got Steam Deck still in the early stages. I think they're trying to see what the water test, like see what the market is right now with these handhelds. If they still want to stick with that, or if they want to do more of a
Can't,
hybrid.
I can't really buy into that, and the reason being is because whatever they have cooking, they're probably so far along. I mean, a company of their magnitude could forfeit whatever they're working on and starting, dare I say, anew, or kind of like call an audible. But I feel wherever they are in the process, they're probably a little too far out to kind of make a decision like that. And they also came out and said that they feel after Zelda that they're not going to have much traction, which I didn't really like to read because so you're pretty much saying you don't have anything big after Zelda? Like that's not good.
Well, that's Nintendo. They like to take like a year or two and build themselves back up again to have a massive launch like they did with early 2019 with those massive stacks of Pokemon games, Mario games, and all that other stuff. So I think if they have something that little break, I mean, fans might not like it, but they're usually going to cook
Mhm.
up to something big. And plus, I think they really are working on well, at least focusing on a new system in the next future because um, there's been talks of a prototype that they kind of worked on, but they might have scrapped. Is a Switch Pro.
Mhm.
Well, they didn't call it Switch Pro, but basically it's like a Wii U, where they have your classic Switch Lite. That's why they released it, where it's just handheld only, and then they have another one where it actually holds into the dock, but the dock is like an extension of the system where it has more processing power, like an SSD, some more graphics in there as well, so it could actually do full 1080p 60 FPS. Oh, some people are saying 4K 30, but I'm not gonna go that far with Nintendo. But it seems
Mhm.
like they might go back to the Wii U format where they try to do like a hybrid of still console but also have a handheld version.
So do you reckon let's take that for whatever, let's theory craft on that. Would they sell it as a separate standalone peripheral, if I may call it that, even though it's pretty much hardware, where the current Switch models would be backward compatible just to dock into that new, like, steroid powered machine? Because if they do it that way, I feel like that'd be the smart play.
I would like to see that too. Anything backwards compatible, I'd always love to see, but they're Nintendo and they're not going to do that because they're very
Mm-hmm.
strict on their policies. On oh hey no, you're going to buy new things again. You're not going to reuse
Mm-hmm.
that.
Well,
So
to their credit, from the Wii to the Wii U, that did kind of carry over.
yeah. Well, also the Wii to the GameCube as well. GameCube was able to be played on the Wii, but knowing their current track record, I highly
Yeah,
doubt it.
yeah. I mean, I'm just saying, like, if that was something they were thinking of doing, I think that would be smart marketing. That'd be fantastic marketing, and they could probably still charge a nice penny for it.
Well, not
You
only
know.
that, but they have the technology already. For people that don't know, the Switch actually well, that USB port isn't meant for just charging it. It can actually transfer data back and forth. That's why it goes into the dock. That's why it transfers to display. So technically, it already has that technology built into it right now with the old
Hmm.
Switches. So they could easily make a docked version that enhances the performance. It's
Hmm.
just are they wanting to do that?
Yeah. Well, time will tell, as I like to say that a lot on this podcast. And I hope. I mean, that would be awesome. That would be pretty superb.
I think the Wii
We shall
U,
see.
the rumored console, like the Wii U with the Switch version, would make a lot of sense because you would have your enhanced version, which is the actual like docked version where you
Hmm.
have other things processing besides the handheld, and then for people that like portable, just take it off.
And not only that, it's not really you're not forcing the market to purchase it. Now, that's where they may lose money, right? But I feel like if you educate people, or if you just, I think it really falls on the education part. I mean, the gamer community as a whole, like the you and I's of the world, we're more than likely going to pick it up day one. But the people that don't really understand that stuff, like they would probably need to be educated about, like, here's why you probably want this. But other than that, like that would be pretty hot. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting things coming up soon. Like, PS5, supposedly they have a pro version coming out next year as well, which is rumored, but I feel like they just don't need to at this point. Like, they're
No,
already
I don't
making
think
enough
they
money, and
need
I feel like
to.
the technology jump hasn't really reached them yet for them to actually warrant a pro.
I
But
agree.
um, another little mini news. I'm not sure if you want to keep adding to that the Switch part.
Not that one, but I did have another mini news topic. But that's fine. We could go back and forth. So you go with yours.
Okay, so last time we did the podcast, I was talking about Evo and then also Street Fighter 6.
Mm-hmm.
I was wrong. I thought the game was out because what I was watching was a beta, and the beta looked pretty complete. But like I said, it was a beta. The full game isn't out. But apparently, with that, a lot of players are taking advantage of a certain exploit to keep playing the beta while it's offline, practicing, leading up towards it being up for Evo.
Mm. So when you had mentioned that, because you did mention offline to me at least, I was a little startled that a game that hasn't been released yet, even though it'll be soon, it'll be next month. And what's the date of Evo again?
August 4th, I believe.
Okay, so hypothetically, less than 2 months, you're already going to usher in an official tournament for that game. Like, I mean, I get it. It's the new flavor. It's going to be hot, yada, yada, yada. But, like, just that small window alone to me just doesn't seem like enough time. I mean, your hardcore players are going to do it, no doubt. But, like, if you're trying to do, uh, um, like, I'm going to compare it to any other sport, but if you're going to try to do it, like, with a seasonal, ladder climb or what have you, like, to me, it just doesn't seem like enough time. But
Well, historically speaking, from Evo, is that all big Street Fighter games have released just a few months before um, Evo actually happens. Like, whenever Street Fighter 4 came out, that's when Evo blew
mm-hmm,
up the biggest in like 2013 or 14. Then same thing with Street Fighter 5. It released like a month before, massive,
mm-hmm.
huge. Actually, I think Street Fighter 5 might actually release like a week before Evo came out.
Yeah, maybe the only thing that I'm gonna play devil's advocate with myself is, in theory, with the exception of this, call it exploiting. In theory, it kind of puts everybody on an equal type playing field because nobody has had to have it for that long. But if people are doing what you're saying, then that's obviously not fair. But it's something that's so hard to police. It's like,
Yeah, supposedly this is the first time it's happened because apparently the demo that they released isn't really the demo, it's actually the full game. It's just,
mm,
how they lock certain parts of it. But
mm-hmm,
apparently, if you're able to bypass it by, encrypting on your PC and just having it permanently
mm-hmm,
downloaded as a
mm-hmm,
file, you can still
mm-hmm.
play it offline and still practice. And you
So
basically
like,
have full character and list commands right there still.
so I think I don't know if it was what I don't know if it was you said it or if it was like comments I was reading from what you had posted, but evidently like no one's gonna get punished for this, right?
No one's gonna get punished if they did it before Capcom released their statement. If they do it afterwards, they are gonna get penalized and they won't be able to play in
Mm,
the tournament.
okay, good. I would take a hard stance on that for sure.
Yeah.
That's good.
But
Well,
that's still a lot of practice that they had. Like almost like
you're
3 weeks
not
of nonstop offline
yeah,
practice. That's
yeah,
crazy.
yeah. I mean, practice. I mean, don't get me wrong. Practice is practice, right? Even if you're just doing training and trying to get your timing and combo set up, but I could be wrong, but in that form, I feel like you're gonna get your best practice going against actual people,
Well,
unless they're doing
there's
it
a
offline
thing.
against other people.
So there's no online when the beta was offline. You could still play locally, like if you convert somebody on your own system. So a lot of people
Yeah,
were
yeah,
inviting other
getting
good
it together.
players. Yeah,
Yeah. That's pretty shitty then.
and it was kind of interesting seeing that because there was a huge fighting game, or I keep calling it fighting game. I'm sorry, Sonic Fox, a fighting game player. His name's Sonic Fox. He's known for being like the best in Mortal Kombat and other games like Dragon Ball Fighter Z. I think he was going to compete, and then he was noticing that a bunch of players were kind of being secretive. They're doing like their own little circles of training. And then when he realized that happened, he started calling them out, and some other people called them out. And then Capcom officially released their statement because most of the pros that were practicing offline were being very hush hush, and they weren't streaming anything about it.
So he was the whistleblower.
Well, it wasn't just him, but he was, because he's such a prominent figure in the
It was a
fighting game
catalyst.
community.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it played a
Well, good for
factor.
him.
Yeah,
I
but I
mean,
just saw
because
this.
I'm sure if, well, dare I say, it depends on how he was wronged. I guess like maybe they kept him out of the circle, but let's say he was invited to the circle and said no, like that's wrong. Then kudos to him. But maybe if he was outcasted from the circle and this was his way to get back at them, well, I mean,
Well, so I don't know the guy personally, but Sonic
yeah.
Fox is one of those players that he really dedicates time and effort, and he tries to be as fair as he possibly can with other
Hmm.
people.
Hmm.
So most likely he was probably excluded because everybody is so terrified of his abilities to be good in any video game he's played.
Hmm.
So that's just my assumption, but I think he was, if he was ousting them, it wasn't because he was envious. It's probably because he's like, hey, a lot of these other players aren't in on it either. It's basically the top players are gonna stay top and everybody else is gonna suffer.
I suppose. I suppose.
But I just thought it was funny that, we haven't had a Jinx moment in a while, but then I talk about Evo and then there was like a massive trauma thing revolving around Street Fighter's beta.
Well, that was just one game, not the entire tournament. If something went awry with the whole tournament, then you can make a claim to it.
But what's your little mini news?
My main news is, I guess it's, well, as of today, it's pure rumor, speculation, but the actual announcement per se will come out next week, Wednesday. But apparently, AEW, the wrestling promotion I follow, and Warner Brothers Discovery, I have a deal going, a 5-year relationship worth $1 billion to have all of AEW's programming on. I believe it's going to be what is it called now? Is it just Max? Did they take HBO out of the Max? What
I
do they
think
call
I
it
think
now?
that's gonna be next month they do it. Or
Okay,
it's just
well,
Max.
yeah, that platform. So we shall see. It's all rumors. The amount of time and the dollar figure I just relayed is rumored. However, if that is tangible, that's pretty fucking big news. $1 billion for a 5-year rights deal for wrestling, and not even WWE wrestling. Like that's pretty big.
So I know we've talked about this before, but with WWE partnering with the UFC, with, was it the Embracer, and
Well, not really in partnering. They're not under
they're
the
connected umbrella,
they're under the yeah they're under the umbrella of shit. What is it called?
some e company. I want to say Embracer, but that sounds wrong.
No, shit. Endeavor.
Endeavor, yes.
Endeavor.
So
Yes.
who's Endeavor partnering with? Is that Comcast then?
No, I think Endeavor is its own entity, from my understanding.
Okay, so they just have contracts to release on Comcast.
Yes, probably yes.
Okay,
So WWE before it went with Endeavor, they had their own contracts with Comcast, USA Network, and Fox.
so because of this question, now because both these two major wrestling organizations are partnered with two different companies, do you feel like this is right now AEW's time to shine and surpass WWE? Because if you look at user base, most of the WWE stuff is mostly on Peacock, their streaming service. Obviously, they still do some of the televised stuff, but most of the main events are still on Peacock. While HBO or Max, what they're going to be calling it, has a bigger user base than Peacock. Could that potentially bring it basically over the edge with viewership wise?
Well, you making or you providing numbers into it that I don't really know about, but if they're tangible, like let's say, to your point, Max's subscription numbers are as of this day higher than Peacock's. I thought Peacock was a free service though.
Uh,
Uh,
some of their stuff is free. I don't know if WWE is free, but I know they have certain things that are accessible, like the main broadcast stuff, like Grey's Anatomy or
mhm,
whatever.
mhm,
That's free, but everything else, like their movies and libraries, that's you have to pay
mhm.
for that.
Okay, so but let's just stick with. I kind of went off the rails there, but let's just stick with pure numbers there. Can that help? Absolutely, I would say so. I just don't know if that's true or not. I like the idea that, well, we have to see what really, if they actually will consume all the products, or will they still have, like, for example, today it's on TBS, on Fridays it's on TNT. Like, I don't know if those are still going to carry over, and then like maybe a day later or a week later they end up on Max. I don't know how it's going to
I
work
feel like if
with
they're
this
gonna have a
stream.
contract, it'll be day and date, like whenever it releases, it'll be on
I
Max as that. That's like the promoting thing, is that's gonna be right there when it
live.
happens. Yeah.
I hope so, because that's kind of my hope. So that way I could get rid of whatever service I have now and just get Max again. uh,
Well, the reason why I say this is because from what I remember, is that Max is basically Discovery and HBO combining together, and HBO never had a live channel thing, but Discovery did. So if they do merge, that's where Max will probably get their live channels like
mm,
Discovery had.
gotcha. Yeah, that would be interesting.
Because I know
I
Peacock
would.
does that, and that's why I watched WWE because it was included with that subscription. Or sorry, not WWE,
Well,
WrestleMania because it was included with the
yeah,
subscription.
but that was a pay per view. So pay per view would be different. Like a pay per view, I would understand being live on the service, which is also, once again, in my opinion, a huge plus. Unless they, I don't know if they have like a micro um, transaction system where you would have to pay more for the pay per view through the streaming service. I
That
don't.
would
I
lose
mean,
a lot of people then because WWE. Well, I can't say I watch all this stuff, but the biggest event, WrestleMania, was
yeah, it was
completely
free.
free with
Yeah,
your actual subscription. So if they
correct.
make you pay extra for AEW, that might mess some people up.
Yeah, I hope that that caveat doesn't exist, because if I was on the AEW side, I wouldn't want that to exist either, because the whole point of being on there is the accessibility part, right?
Mm.
So I'm just saying something like that would not surprise me, even if it was cheaper than the actual pay per view, because pay per views right now are $50. So like even if it was half that price, but you're still paying your monthly fee, right? So it's like, this all remains to be seen. Hopefully next week we get all these answers, but yeah, I don't want to over speculate. But to kind of answer your question, could this help and propel them? Absolutely. I, 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 I mean, they're already doing so well for themselves, and I had mentioned in previous podcasts, because it has been a week or a week and a half, my fault. But like they're gonna do a show in London, which I tried to get tickets to, and they already sold 68,000 tickets out of like 90,000. So it hasn't sold out the whole place yet, but that's like really, really, really good. So yeah, they're doing well for themselves.
I can say this just for the benefit of you because I know today is your wrestling day, and you like to talk about wrestling. Unfortunately, I can't really contribute. If H or Max, I want to call it HBO still because I don't know why they get rid of
I know. I
HBO.
mean, because that's what we're known to call it. So
Yeah, but Max, if it is included and I don't have to pay extra, I can tell you this: whenever they have a main title fight, whatever they call it,
pay per
basically main
view.
event, yeah, um, I will be watching it so I can participate because I know there's a large community out there that loves wrestling, and I'd love to participate in that fandom.
Cool. Yeah, I think the accessibility thing would be huge. I think even with like how you said you watched WrestleMania. I mean, how could you not watch it when it's free, right? Like
Yeah,
I didn't have it, but like seriously, like I had other friends that don't follow wrestling at all. And they're like, yeah, I'm watching WrestleMania now. Blah. I'm like, cool, like that's awesome. So yeah, I mean, I think even people that aren't, I think this might be a bold statement, but I feel like a large percent of the population of the human race at one point in their life was a wrestling fan. At one point, whether it was like a 6 month period or whatever, like I think anybody and everybody knows something about wrestling. And you could think people like from way back in the day, like Hulk Hogan and stuff like that. Like they just transcend generations, transcend cultures and everything. So something like that, when you see something of that magnitude for free, how can you not jump on it and watch it?
so for people that are listening, there's something I've actually proposed to the real Shiesty is I actually want to do a wrestling segment coming in the near future, and the reason why I want to do this because of what you just said, the golden era of like WWE, Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Jake the Snake Roberts, what's it called, Ric Flair, like whenever I hear someone talk about wrestling, they still always refer and quote back to those old days of like late '80s, early '90s,
Hmm.
and
Yeah,
hearing them talk, like even if they're young or old, they still have this like clear image in their head of these events that occurred and that will always forever be a part of their life. And I think that's really cool.
yeah, it really is. Like you could compare it to your favorite sports team winning a championship. I mean,
Unless,
it's
oh no, I agree.
no, that's like really, it's an honest comparison. I think a lot of people would probably concur with that assessment.
Yeah, like whenever like a Royal Rumble happens, like I know for me, I I can't remember exactly what happened. I know the Undertaker was in it. It was a Hell in a Cell match, and I think this is also the last time they did a Hell in a Cell where somebody was actually on top of the cage and they're fighting there.
Hmm.
But one of the guys actually tripped. I think it might have been Kane, but they fell all the way down to the bottom, and they had to like try to play it off as like it was intentional. But you could tell the guy actually broke his neck, and they had to wheel him off. And like just watching that as a kid, I'm like, that guy just died. Like what just happened? Then you can see like the Undertaker just standing there, and he's like trying to look. He's concerned, but obviously he has to play his character, and just looking over on the cage is like, yeah, I did that.
So I don't know if you are referencing a different one or if you're trying to reference the one that I know of, but basically what ended up happening was it wasn't an accident. Undertaker threw off Mankind and he went through the table, and then they started stretching him out because that's something that has never happened in the history of wrestling. And as they're wheeling him out, he got off the stretcher, went back, climbed to the top, got chokeslam, went through the cage into the ring on top of chairs. Yeah, it was madness. I'll
But
just
did he break his neck though?
no, he didn't break his neck. I believe it was that same match though. I think it happened when he went through the cell, not when he fell off the cage to the table. Um, he had like wood chips like pierce through his nose and come out, and like it was some, yeah, there's
So that might
some
be actually
madness
what I'm
going
talking
on,
about.
but
But I know
yeah,
that there's like
I think
some
it
like
was.
horrific thing that happened to the guy that fell that they were trying
Mhm.
to like play it off, but like he was actually really injured.
Yeah, no, I mean, he sustained injuries, no doubt, but it was nothing that. I mean, to be honest, once they carted him off on the stretch, he should have stayed carted off first and foremost. But he didn't sustain injuries that like kept him out for weeks or weeks. I mean, that was a different era though, too. Like honestly, like if that would have happened today, which for first and foremost probably wouldn't happen today, but if it did, he would not have returned like for months probably.
well,
They would be like, "No, you're gonna stay your ass at home because it's a liability at this point."
well, I think the reason I'm remembering, even if it's like really vague and foggy, but I think
Hmm.
because of that, they haven't done a situation where they were actually on top of the cage ever again.
WWE, I wouldn't say never again. They may have done something, but not like that. Absolutely not like that. Um, AEW has done what they call is I'll admit I think it's a dumbass name, but it's called a blood and guts match, and it's pretty much two rings and then two cages over the rings, and they went on top for that. And I actually think Jericho got thrown off, but
Wait,
he
Jericho?
yeah, Jericho got thrown off.
Like the Great Wall
However,
is the Jericho guy?
yes, Chris Jericho,
What? Oh, Chris
the
Jericho.
Lion
Yeah.
Tamer. So he got thrown off, but he got thrown onto like a bunch of padding. So it was
Oh.
like, uh it's still cool visual, but they're more delicate with it.
If you remember that
So,
match, you gotta link me that because
oh
for
yeah.
some reason, Hell in the Cell matches or whatever, Blood and Guts,
Hmm.
even though there's most well, obviously the stage, but even that, it's just for some reason it's just the coolest thing to me. I think that's like the one reason why I got into wrestling is because of that match style.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's that. I mean, that's why I still appreciate it to this day. Is like there's still like, well, we don't have to go into details, but like we know it's fake, but what happens there is real, as real could ever be. And just to appreciate the dare I call it, the ballet of it, is why I like it to this day.
Yeah, but dude, some of those guys, I wonder if they have like ideas and then they like play it, they put it on the book, and it's like, oh, that sounds cool. But then when it actually happens, it's like, oh yeah, we're never gonna do this again. Like I remember I think this is like the last time I watched wrestling. It was Randy Orton versus someone else,
Mm-hmm.
and Randy Orton put like a whole bunch of thumbtacks on the map or the
Mm-hmm.
map,
Mm-hmm.
and for some reason the other guy did like a reversal on Randy Orton. Randy Orton was supposed to do his suplex thing, whatever it's called, onto the mat where the other guy would take the thumbtacks. But because he got reversed, Randy Orton fell on him, and his whole body was just littered with them. And he was like, after the match, he was like, "Yeah, that was a bad idea. I'm in a lot of pain."
Yeah, oh God, I can never. Have you ever stepped or put your hand accidentally on a thumbtack before?
I've had well, not a thumbtack, but a sewing needle. I was reaching inside of a drawer, and a
Okay.
sewing needle went underneath my fingernail and like
Ooh, that's a
halfway
bad
up.
place to go to. Ooh.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was it was bad.
I don't know what the circumstance was, but I have accidentally stepped on a thumbtack before. Going in is no problem. You do not feel it one bit. The reason why I knew there was a thumbtack is when I kept stepping, I'm like, something's off with my foot. Let me look. Holy shit, there's a thumbtack in my foot. What the fuck? And then pulling it out is where, at least for me, was the painful part. Maybe it's because, like I said, or the way I just told that story, my brain didn't really understood or recognize that I actually stepped on a thumbtack, and now that it's registered, oh shit, dumbass, you got something in you. And then now pulling it out made it hurt. Anyway, imagine that times what, 20 to 50 on your back
Oh
and
no,
legs
he
and
had
all that shit.
his whole
Like
back, legs, and
it's
front chest
it's
were all
it's
covered.
it's I like you can't fake that. And for those that also try to say that, oh, it's just the head of the thumbtack. There's not there no. Like
Even just the head of
no,
it alone
the
hurts.
camera generally will zoom in and show you that there are pointy parts to every single one of those thumbtacks.
And when you see them permanently imprinted on the body, hundreds of them, you're like,
Yeah,
oh yeah, that guy's he's hurting.
yeah. So the fact that these guys actually and girls, I'm not gonna just blanket it for guys. No, it's all the athletes, men and women, because there's been some women matches that have been very very great that also have thumbtacks in them. That fact that they sign up for that to me is just like you got to have a level of crazy, and that to me that just truly shows that they fucking love it,
Well, to
and it's
me, the
awesome.
crazy part, I mean, obviously the thumbtacks, the
No, you
class,
got to be
the
crazy.
chip.
You got to be a
Well,
little crazy.
I didn't finish yet.
Okay.
But to me, the craziest part though is back in the old days when Jake the Snake would actually bring out a snake and it would bite somebody. I think they defanged it and all that stuff, but like the fact that the snake still bit you and you had stuff in your arms because of that, that's still crazy.
Yeah, I forgot which wrestler it was, but I'm sure there's. You could probably Google it, but I know there's like one infamous one where a particular wrestler actually had a phobia.
Oh, that well, so
And
Jake the Snake was talking about in a podcast, and it was about Macho Man Randy Savage.
was it Macho Man?
Yeah.
So and there might have been another one too, but yeah, that's crazy. That's worse than just what they're already doing. I mean, if you're fucking terrified of that particular thing, like, damn.
Well, not only that, but like a snake, even if you like clean it as best as you can, as it's non venomous, it still has bacteria in its fangs that can still get you sick. So like it's crazy that they actually use a real snake to keep biting someone as like a prop.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about all that, but uh,
But it,
either way, it's the visual, right? It's the whole show of it. That's just crazy.
but for people that
Uh,
don't know, look up Jake the Snake. Him telling like the story. I believe it's Macho Man. I could be wrong, but just type in Jake the Snake, a podcast or tell story, and then you'll hear like a really funny story from him about some of the wrestlers. Well, I think it's a wrestler we're talking about that has a phobia, and him just being completely, you know, angry in the back room, doing a whole bunch of crazy stuff.
yeah.
But that's funny.
So yeah, that was the other little story I wanted to share. Like I said, I believe next week is when they're gonna officially make the statement, but it was pretty big rumored news today. So other than that, I don't. I mean, I know there's probably other little stories galore, but I can't really think of anything off the top of my head.
I got stuff. I'm gonna wait for later episodes because it's still
Okay,
developing.
cool.
But I will say, like I said, if it is included with Max, you can see me participating with AEW a little bit more if it's included. But you ready to move on to the first topic?
Sure, let's do it.
Okay, so this one you might not know much about, but recently Redfall just had a really big release for or sorry, Xbox just has had a really big release with Redfall. It was one of the games they hyped up for almost 2 years. Um, and it came out I think May 1st or May 2nd. And if you've been paying attention to social media, it's been a failure. I actually played the game. It's not as bad as people are saying, but it's still pretty bad. And I'm giving it a little bit of leeway because it is on Game Pass. But for people that paid a full $70 for this, I truly feel bad for you, and I hope that Xbox gives you your money back because they should never have shipped this game in the condition it's in.
Mm.
Um, but the reason why we're bringing this up, or the reason why I'm bringing this up, is because Xbox currently has a track record of having big AAA games, like basically the staple games, that have been very lackluster, like Halo Infinite. I know people will defend it, but let's be honest, it wasn't complete at launch. It's still not complete. They're still working on it, which I appreciate. But the fact that they worked supposedly 8 years for Halo Infinite and it's still releasing the horrible quality it did is unacceptable. The same thing with Redfall. They've been working on it for many years, even before the acquisition. So maybe you could put more on Bethesda and Xbox this time because they were developing that before the acquisition happened. But still, they should have delayed it. Even with Game Pass, it's still not acceptable because most of the air doesn't work and you're pretty much just walking around doing nothing the whole time. So I know I've been defending Xbox a lot, but this is one time I want to criticize them, and seeing how bad the recent staple games have been terrible, it makes me more concerned for Starfield more than ever. And I
And you
think,
were already concerned about Starfield, right?
yeah.
Mm.
So I feel like at this point, Xbox needs to reevaluate their whole first party studios and have them completely drop all the games they're doing, have a sit down discussion, and rework themselves from the inside because right now, whatever they're doing is not working.
Would you also say, I don't mean to like really shift off the main part of this topic, which is Game Pass and Xbox, and their, if you would dub them, their first party IPs, right? In a sense, right? That's what
Mm-hmm.
these all are, right? So is this, would this even be more concerning with them still trying to get like the acquisitions of the world, like the Activision Blizzard merge? Like, do you think that would even be a further problem? Maybe they should just fucking stop worrying about getting acquisitions and worry about their own house first.
Honestly, at this point, yes, I still would like to. I would like to see Activision being owned by Xbox because I feel like consumer wise it'd be beneficial. But I think what Xbox needs to do with their first party studios is because they have kind of like a hands off approach with their first party developers. They kind of let them do their own thing. I think that's an issue. Like obviously you don't want an overlord watching over you the whole time, micromanaging and critiquing you. But there also needs to be some structure in your office space. And if the head um CEO and playtesters aren't looking at these other studios and testing before they ship, that's an issue because there's no communication in between. And Xbox should realize that even if Bethesda releases a bad game, that still reflects badly on them because they own them.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they need to do a lot of internal reworking in themselves. And supposedly, there's because of this acquisition, people are still getting readjusted and different heads are being changed. Apparently, there's a creative process blockage that's happening around where people are being introduced to new methods of developing a game that they're not used to. And that's why these games are becoming crappier and crappier because they're having to adjust to a new formatting style or something. Which, even that, I'm like, okay, even if you have to adjust and it's crappy and you're having trouble and there's a lot of internal issues, you still shouldn't have released that game right away if you knew it wasn't done. Because supposedly everybody that's worked on these games on Redfall said they knew it wasn't done.
So if so, that would be, I guess, once again, a failure on Microsoft's part for not allowing them to get an extension. Like I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure there's like really no big time unions involved when it comes to these type of video game companies. So like
Well,
if there's no like strict like, hey, it needs to be out now, like, yeah, you might have had like this whole marketing campaign done and ready to launch and do all that shit with, but like I don't know, like Nintendo. I mean, I hate to make the comparisons, but Zelda's been delayed up teen amount of times. We recently saw, even though some people argue that wasn't ready too, but the recent Star Wars game was delayed. What I mean, I know there, I know I'm missing like another prominent one, but like we've seen delays. So why aren't they, allowing delays?
I honestly think the reason why they're not allowing delays is because of
It's
Game
under
Pass.
pressure, huh?
Nope, I think it's because of Game Pass. I think
Mm,
because their ideology is that, oh, it's included with a subscription, we don't have to work as hard. And I think that's a bad mindset going to, because they can still get their money back if they release it, but that's just going to give them a bad rep. Like, a lot of people played it on Game Pass. I think it was like the number one game played for like 2 weeks in a row, even in its bad condition, because it's
mm-hmm,
on Game Pass.
mm-hmm,
But I think I don't want to blame it on Game Pass, but I think
mm-hmm,
because Xbox does have, and it's, they are able to ship it off to PC, Xbox, all these Xbox consoles. I think that's why
mm-hmm.
they're willing to release these crappy games early, because it's just included there and they get to have free testers.
Do you think they do it with the mindset of having free testing? That's
Free
dumb.
testing, and also maybe seeing what the criticism is, if it's worth either staying onto that project or if they just move
Yeah,
on.
I hope to God that's not their brain trust ideology, because that is the most dumbest idea ever, or thought process ever, or model, whatever you want to dub it as.
As much as that
That's
sounds
just
dumb, and it is dumb, there has been games to. I think it was Square Enix, the American side, before it was sold off to the other company. They actually had a game. It might have been Outriders, where they, or no, I think it was Anthem, um, which is in Square Enix. That'd be EA, but they released it and they said, we're just gonna give this out now. We know it's bad. We'll get our money back and then we'll just move on. We'll develop a better game later. I'm like,
But I think
what?
it's different if you flat out come up from like, hey guys, this is an unfinished product. Don't be mad at us, but we're gonna do it, versus like, hey, you're supposed to get a finished product. You know what I'm saying? It's a different
Well,
mindset.
Anthem is pretty much considered the biggest disappointment in recent history, because it was supposed to be the biggest, MMO shooter on the consoles, and it turned out
I
to be
think I
just
can
a
remember
massive
hearing that one.
disappointment,
Yeah.
because they're banning their own players for exploiting the game's broken system. So it's like you're basically um, punching players that were just playing the game as intended. It's just you didn't like the fact that they were using certain in-game methods to get more loot, and so you ban them for that. Which I don't understand that, but yeah, just Xbox's first party, man. Just seeing their track record, like I said, Halo, Gears of War seems to be on the safe side, but the Coalition seems to be more, how do you say it, disciplined with their development. Plus, they also kind of know what they're doing because they've been working with the same franchise. I don't want to throw 343 under the bus too much, because they did take it over from Bungie, and I think they're trying to figure out how to make Halo IP more their IP than it, you know, than it really is. And I think that's a problem. I think 343 just needs to completely get rid of Halo and make a new shooter IP for themselves and make it their own identity, instead of trying to hold on to something that's another studio did, because obviously it's still not working.
Mm, yeah. Well, I'm not gonna sit here and bash Microsoft, but yeah, that's pretty shit.
But on the counter side to this, so even though their AAA side has been looking very bleak, and I have no hope for their future, because just from what we've seen recently, it's been bad. Their indie side and partner developers are actually looking very promising. A lot of their new games that are by indie developers like Ravenlock, Tunic, Dust Door, they've been onto Game Pass. They're getting more uh, exposure, and they're also really good. And then they have also more JRPG stuff coming up, which is kind of like their rival towards like Square Enix. It seems like they're starting to get more foreign studios involved in their process, which I'm thankful for, because they've been lacking severely on like, like something of like a what's it called, like an Octopath game. But now they're starting to get those games again. Like they have Fuga 2, Melodies of Steel. Um, they have something else coming up soon. I wish I was able to remember it. My brain was, I should have wrote this down, but this was supposed to be last week's topic before I got sick. But
Hmm.
on the not Xbox Studio side, they're just killing it. Like they bring a whole bunch of genres into the mix that are actually making Xbox more enjoyable to play. and I feel like Xbox should focus more on these studios and their actual own first party studios because they're just knocking out of the park, man. Like they have
And
a new shooter game called Exo Primal that looks really good. That's coming out I think next month, and I think that's gonna be better than Redfall.
and those studios, or I'm sorry, those games from those studios are only on Xbox?
Yes,
Okay, interesting. Hmm.
which kind of is funny because when you think of like JRPG games, you would think of PlayStation,
Mm-hmm.
and it seems like a lot more of these. I say JRPGs, but you know that's Japanese role playing game. But there's
Mm-hmm.
a lot more foreign studios like that. They're releasing games for Xbox recently. It almost makes me think: is it because Xbox has a more friendly, how do you say it, market service compared to PlayStation? Because PlayStation, I think they take like 40 to 60% of the development um, proceeds, and that the studio doesn't really get most of that money.
Probably. If that's the case, then kudos to them, and thankful for them that it's arguably could be the one thing that would keep them afloat or keep them in gamers' eyes favor. Um, but yeah, those are details that I'm not aware about as far as like the royalty aspect of it.
I do know that
So
PlayStation charges a fair amount of money just for you to put a game
mhm,
on there, and they take a lot of,
mhm,
or they take a huge percentage of that sales.
mhm.
But Xbox seems to be more friendly with that, and I think Nintendo's also been pretty fair too recently. I think that's why you're starting to see more games like, you know, those Octopath games that we were seeing now pop up, like Level Live, whatever, and all that stuff, more appear on Nintendo Switch than you do on PlayStation because
But
it's
I
more
think
friendly.
I think Live a Live was, is that a Square Enix game as well though? I think it is. I can't remember, but yeah, no, I mean the Switch though has always had an indie presence from day one.
Well, yeah, but I know, but I'm just saying. I think the reason why they have that is because
It's because
the market
it's
share
friendly.
price
Yeah,
is more friendly for the developer
yeah,
than it is for being on PlayStation.
yeah. Correct, exactly. And I think too, there's also the friendly part is obviously fantastic, but with Xbox because of the game share thing, like to your point, you also have that wider range of market with the PC as well, so it's always a huge plus.
Yeah,
Versus with Sony, it's only Sony and Nintendo only Nintendo.
but going back to Xbox, I really think that for the foreseeable future, I know it's going to anger some Xbox people, but I think they need to cancel a lot of their games and just sit down, have a talk with their internal studio, and just figure out their process and then reimagine themselves. I think that's what they need. Like I said, when it comes to these third party games that are working specifically with just Xbox, they need to continue that. They need to highlight it more than ever because these games are the only reason that Xbox will be saved with Game Pass. Because
Mm-hmm.
these games are good, they're fun, they're enjoyable, and unfortunately, I'm gonna blame the Xbox player base for this. But because Xbox players are so used to like Halo, they're not used to these other good quality games. So
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Xbox needs to highlight this for the players because they truly have some golden games on there. Like
Like
basically
hidden
three,
gems. Yeah.
yeah, hidden gems. Like there's a game on 360 called Lost Odyssey, and unfortunately it failed big time. But if people that played it, it was leagues better than Final Fantasy. The original creators of Final Fantasy moved over to Xbox and made a game for Xbox called Lost Odyssey. But because the player base is so used to shooters, they let that game flop, even though that game was a masterpiece. And it seems like that foreign market's coming back again to give it another shot. And I just hope that this time it succeeds and doesn't flop like it did before because I feel like this is one of the only reasons why Xbox can actually stay competitive in the marketplace compared to Sony.
So outside of all that, is there is there a first party property by Microsoft on the horizon? We'll just say even this year that you know or you feel very confident that will be uh I don't want to say masterpiece, but will be a hit and won't be a letdown like Redfall and the other IPs.
So yes, but unfortunately, I'm not in that genre because they're more meant. They were originally PC games like Age of Empires and all that stuff. Like they're more like strategy games.
Okay.
All their games from like Game ID, I think they're called. That's a studio that's owned by Microsoft. They have been whatever games they release, they've been always knocking it out. That's been superb quality every single time. unfortunately, their categories are so niche that a lot of players don't play them because it's
Mhm.
more catered towards strategic or explorative gameplay.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
unfortunately, because of that, a lot of their games are coming out in the near future, even though they're most likely going to be really great as they've always been, because they're least popular, no one's going to play them.
Yeah, just because of the genre. That sucks.
Yeah. It's kind of weird that their best studios are the most underrated studios.
Mm. Well, I mean, it's hard to, push and sell something like that. And maybe I'm biased by saying this, but our RTS games, obviously I think of, the Warcraft, the Starcraft, you mentioned Age of Empires, Civilization, like they were on PC and their prime time was always PC. So like I just automatically associate that those games need to be played on PC. Not that they can't be played on the console, but with just moving and pointing and typing and macros and all that stuff, it just flourishes on a PC rather than a console.
It, normally, I would say that just like MMOs, I feel like they play on PC, but there's certain games like I saying one of the only few Xbox first party studios, Coalition, that makes Gears of War. They recently came out with a game. It was like 2 years ago, but it's called Gears of War Tactics, and it's complete like even though it has the Gears name, it's a different genre completely. It's an
Yeah.
RTS game,
Hmm.
and it plays really well on console. And it's actually one of the few RTS games I actually still play and really enjoy. And I feel like if if Xbox wants to highlight any studio, they need to look at the Coalition. They need to bring the Coalition to these other studios like Arcane Austin, some of the other Bethesda studios, and also 343, and let them show them how to develop video games. Like have like a master class here. This is how it's done. Because so far,
That's
like
funny.
Coalition, they haven't made a bad game. Like from Gears 1 all the way until 5, um, even Tactics and some of the other stuff, like they've just been upping their game every single time. But of course, they also started with their original game. Like I said, I don't want to bash 343 too much, but I think they just need to give up on Halo. It's not their game, and it seems like they still struggle with that. I think they just need to create their own new IP that actually fits their developing style.
Hmm.
But yeah, I don't know. I'm not hopeful for their first party games. I feel bad for Phil Spencer and some of the other heads because they're calling for his job, which I don't think is fair. But at the same time, I do think he needs to be a little bit more stern with his studios and get them on a good track. Because, dude, Starfield is the biggest game people are looking forward to, and if Starfield fails, which I'm confident it might, it would be a huge hit for Xbox players because it's like it's just the biggest IP that they have currently, or biggest hyped IP that they have.
Mm, interesting.
But I feel like I had to talk about them because I've been defending them too much recently, and this is the one time they dropped the ball, and I just feel like they're not going to do any better soon.
Yeah, it's not good. Not good for you for your Microsoft peoples.
But I guess we can move on to two, which I kind of want to talk about more because it's more fresh in the mind than Xbox was. Unfortunately, Xbox was last weekend or a weekend ago, but Free Comic Book Day. It took place May
Okay.
7th. It's the first Saturday of the May. That's all I know.
Yeah.
So I officially went to my first comic book shop. I haven't been to a comic book shop before. So this was a new experience, and I was curious about Free Comic Book Day. Obviously, I figured that they'd give you a free comic book, which they did. But the place I went to didn't just give out one free comic book. Apparently, they have a whole bunch of issues that they give out for free. That these what you call artists, illustrators do. They have like first issues that they give out, just so you can get a sample and see if you like it. Um, Most of them are pretty cool. I think I have like Uncanny Avengers, a new show that's coming out for Netflix, Spider Man and Venom. I've actually read all these, but the one that shocked me the most is a comic book for a character called Clementine. And if you haven't played The Walking Dead from Telltale on any of the consoles, I recommend doing that. But this comic book takes place after the fourth season, which the fourth season of The Walking Dead is the final game so far by Telltale. I don't know if they're gonna make another one, but this picks up after that, and it's actually really good. And because of this free comic I got, I'm actually gonna go back soon to buy the complete book so I can continue the story because it's pretty good.
Mm.
But because I've read some of these, I also picked up a comic book that I've been hearing about for a while, and I think they're gonna be making a video game here soon. Is The Last Ronin.
Nice.
I actually read this, and it's really good. So if they actually do make a video game about this, it's gonna be pretty epic.
Nice. And that is Raphael, right?
No,
Or Michelangelo.
This is Michelangelo.
Michelangelo, right? That's right.
Mikey.
Because I was like, it's a little ironic that the last one would be Mikey, the one that's supposed to be the funny guy, ha ha ha. But now he's like the badass.
So a little spoiler here, but that is Mikey. He now has a black thing to represent his anger. But if you look at his back, he has all his
All his
brother's
brother's
weapons.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
I might need to borrow that from you, maybe.
dude, it's a good read, man. I didn't even so apparently Robert Rodriguez, he's a director that I'm a fan of. Apparently he helped promote this. He's not the writer. Kevin Eastman and Peter Lard, I guess, are the ones that created it.
The original ones.
Yeah, but seeing that Robert Rodriguez was actually hyping this thing up, it makes me even more excited that he might have a hand in this when it comes to like an animation or movie. But the story for this is very dark, but it's very good, and I'm really happy I picked this up. And for free comic book day, the store I went to, I think all comic book stores were doing this for free comic book day, but most of the inventory was 20-30% off. But because I was a new member and the guy was very nice, he was the owner of the store. He gave me an extra 10% discount up on that 30%. So the $30 book became $15. And dude, the quality of it, I'm gonna open up some of the pages.
Because it's a hardback, yeah.
Well, it's full colored, everything. It was a nice little introduction to the comic book world. I've never owned a comic book before, never been to one until recently, and I can say my first experience has been very good to me.
Yeah, so I don't have that one, but I wouldn't mind taking a gander at that. But at the same time, I do have another Ninja Turtles comic book. It's a hardcover, but it's the one with Ninja Turtles and Batman. And it's not as thick as that story. It's probably about half the size of that one. So I have that. And although I did not go out for Free Comic Day because it wasn't on my radar, I didn't even know what was going on. But I did host a soiree that day on Saturday. So my friends that showed up, actually, one gave me a free comic book. And it's a little apropos because it's a comic book about Ric Flair. And he said he read it already. He's like, "You gotta read it. It's actually pretty funny." I'm like, "Okay." So I haven't read it yet, but got it.
That's
and
actually
then,
really funny that he just gave you a free comic.
Yeah, and then my other friend was over. They bought him a free comic, and it's funny because it's well, you guys could be the judge, but it's called Mexikid. So racial profiling at best. I have no idea what this is about, but it was obviously my other friend. Well, I mean, hell, I'm half Hispanic, but it was almost like a gag gift for free comic book day.
Dude, there's so many...
we're gonna give out free copies of good old Mexikid.
There's so many weird comic books, man, that seem like really racist, but they're actually pretty good. Like when I was at the comic book shop, I didn't pick it up because it wasn't part of the free thing, but it was called Thai Lady, and it was about this how do you say it, hermaphrodite transgender person that was in Thailand that was kind of like in the rough neighborhoods. They went through, obviously prostitution and stuff like that, and it was basically getting their life back together, moving into a nice place, getting them the happy life they deserve in a comic book issue. But I thought it was really funny that they called it Thai Lady. I was like, okay, that's
zero fucks given.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty hilarious.
Well, are those your first two comic books that you ever received, or have you had others?
I have had others, but not like so I mentioned the Turtles Batman, which I bought on my own accord. I have like mini Pokemon mangas that used to come with the DVDs. Like if you bought like the old school original Pokemon DVDs, they would always come with a miniature comic book inside. So I always kept those. Unfortunately, I don't think they're worth a fucking crack. So, but I still have them. I never read them. I always felt like they may be collectors, so I kind of just stored them away. I have like Street Fighter comics as well. Um, Not many though. I'm trying to think of what else I may have, but that's really it. Like I never got into comic books like a couple of my friends are into it.
I will say, going to this comic book store has kind of opened my eyes to certain things because I didn't realize that pretty much everything and anything has a comic book. Most of the games or shows that we
Yeah.
watch has a comic book, and I've seen that the boys they had all the issues there, and they had Invincible, they had The Walking Dead, they had obviously TMNT stuff, Batman. Which I'm like, I don't want to go down that route because that can get pretty expensive, and also there's like a large rabbit hole of stories to go through. But I feel like for the linear ones, I could see myself getting into like I said, the Last Ronin. I read that, it was fantastic. I think I might go back and read some of the other TMNT stuff that are supposedly like really good. Um, but it, I sometimes I forget that comic books and mangas, like the Japanese mangas, are so identical with the story. Obviously, they're illustrated, there's graphics and all that stuff. But when I was reading the comic book for the first time, I read it in the manga version from right to left, and I forgot that this English was
Mm,
left to right. I got to read,
mm.
so it took me. I'm like, this doesn't make sense, and I'm
Yeah, I
like,
was like, it's not making sense.
and then 20 pages in, I'm like, oh wait, I gotta read the opposite way, and I'm like, and then I went back and I'm like, oh, this makes more sense. Now I'm like, I can't believe I was so brainwashed by the manga's versions because the last manga I got was Naruto, which I got many years ago. I got the first editions for Volume 1 up until like Sasuke versus Uchiha thing, which I think my versions are actually really expensive because my first volumes are the rare ones because they're the first prints, and the
Hmm.
first two are actually signed by the author himself. Um, but I haven't owned a manga since then. But because of my memory kicking in from that way, and also watching anime, um, I did the opposite for these American comics, which is really funny.
That is pretty funny. Yeah, I don't know like why, and I guess that's why also too I'm not into like the whole Marvel and DC universe, even though I like the DC more. But like I can't really articulate or understand why I never gravitated towards comics. I don't know.
I think the reason why, and this is my reason for not really getting, why I'm not going to get into them, is
Hmm.
because there's so much story there that you don't really know when to start, and when you do read it and then you read something else, it's like you get confused. You're like, oh, this is not connected, but it's still connected.
Yeah, I think that would be a problem with me too. Like it's like not only are you late to the party, but you're like too late to the party, right? Not to say it's impossible to pick up because it always is, but I could agree with that with your assessment there, but that really only stands true for today, right? Like I'm talking about like when I was younger too. I guess maybe once again, like when I was younger, I didn't have the if I was gonna spend my own money on something, that wasn't where I was gonna spend it. Like I think even back in that age group, like I was still into the sports cards, obviously video gaming. So yeah, comics just wasn't on my radar. I didn't like there were cartoons I loved, and then that would accompany with certain toys, but I wasn't into all the super hyped stuff like your Transformers in the world, your GI Joe. Now I did like Turtles, I liked Ghostbusters, so like I don't know, it's really interesting, really weird.
It's funny that you're saying that because when I was at the comic book shop, because like I said, I had never been to one, I was asking the guy, which I didn't know was the owner at the time, I said, what
Mm-hmm.
do you recommend to get into first? And I told him what I was into, like Marvel, Batman, and all that stuff, TMNT. He recommended some things. He also handed me these two, which the reason why he handed them to me is apparently Uncanny Avengers is what they're leading towards in the next stage of Marvel. And then also, this potentially might be what James Gunn might be directing for DC.
Mm.
Which, reading some of these, makes me think that James Gunn. Well, of course, I'm still gonna go with Zack Snyder because I want to see the Injustice version of DC. But seeing Guardians of the Galaxy 3 and seeing he's done with Suicide Squad and some other things, I feel like with the right story, with the right DC characters, James Gunn could do a really, really good job at directing this new wave of superheroes coming out for them soon. And I'm looking
Mm.
forward to like I want to see like an actual American Superman from him that goes from like the kid to the guy to the god, and then how obviously that obviously has conflict. And then I also want to see what a James Gunn Joker and Deathstroke would be like, because I feel like
Mm,
that'd be really cool.
interesting. I just, I don't know. I feel like there's one thing on the choice of direction, right? The choice of story you're gonna go down, but also, the casting, right? I think the casting's still really a huge component in it all because you're not casting for one flick. You're casting for a universe. So hope he gets it right.
Well, a lot of people. So like I think the obstacle he's going to have is that he's going to have to get over the Zack Snyder fans, because
Yeah.
Zack Snyder was building an Injustice universe, which is like the darker, more battle heavy stuff, which was great. I wanted to see it. I would still love to see it finished. James Gunn, I feel like his version of it is still going to be really good, but his role is just going to have to be over that Zack Snyder thing where people want to see that Injustice, which we'll never see, and we're going to see his version, and then people are going to compare the two, which they really shouldn't be compared. But
Yeah, like I feel like when at least when it comes to the DC aspect, I think it will be easier for fans to get over it. And the reason why I say that is because, and obviously my opinion isn't really the same as everybody's, but like, when we have the Nolan trilogy, right? It's like, okay, people got over that kind of pretty quickly. And yeah, we'll always make the comparisons, but I don't see people like clinging on to from the Snyder to the Nolan, right? Like I think people were able to make and put that wall and have that separation. The comparisons are always going to be there, but I think fans were able to separate the two.
I think with James Gunn, you're gonna see more of like a Michael Keaton Batman, like that weird wonky style, but it has a good story to it. I think that's the style you're gonna see from him. But if you look at his track record from all the movies he's directed, from Guardians of the Galaxy to the Scooby Doo movies, which is in my opinion the best live action adaptation we've ever gotten from anything, is those two live action Scooby Doo movies. He's done a really good job. Same thing with the Suicide Squad. I'm not sure if you watched the new one, but there is a lot of how do you say, unpopular characters that were introduced in the new Suicide Squad that actually were given proper story and were done right. So I feel like if he could do that with non-popular characters, I'm kind of interested to see what he could do with the main staple characters like Batman, Superman, Joker, Lex Luthor, General Zod, Wonder Woman, and all that stuff. I feel like he could do a decent job. I'm actually turning my point on him. I said fire James Gunn, but seeing Guardians of the Galaxy 3 and how it really pulls heartstrings and seeing how dark it could really be, it makes me want to see his DC version.
Well, what did he? I'm trying to remember. Did he have a hand in the Flash one that's coming out? Or is he not
I
associated with that one, but he's just really hyping it up and being supportive because he's taken over from that point forward?
I honestly don't know. I've been kind of keeping myself pretty, you know, what you call it, pretty vague on all that stuff, because I don't want to like spoil myself with the Flash, because
Mhm,
I feel like
mhm.
it's gonna be really good, even though I have my current personal problems with Ezra Miller.
Oh yeah, I think everybody does. Yeah, yeah.
But I think the movie is gonna be really good,
I
especially
think so
seeing
too.
like the little bits with Michael Keaton in it.
Yeah, I think that's where a lot of people are really excited about. Not only that, but freaking what's his name is in it too. God, I can't believe I'm brain farting his name. The other Batman.
Oh, Ben Affleck.
Ben Affleck. Jesus Christ, it's
Dude,
like
they
tip of
got
my
so
tongue.
many people in here. They got Ben
So,
Affleck, Michael Keaton. They have, I forgot the girl's name. Her character's always been a mystery to me. But like the new female Superman,
mhm,
which I believe is his daughter at this point.
yeah.
Ezra Miller 2, which the alternate version, and supposedly we're getting General Zod and some other people, and it's
Oh
just,
yeah, that's right. He does come back. What's his name? Michael Shannon.
yeah. And he's a
Yeah.
fantastic actor himself, and
Oh
he did a
yeah,
great
he's.
job of General Zod.
Oh
So,
yeah, he's great. Yeah, yeah. So
dude, it's
it's
just gonna
kind
be
of like
good.
the like the recent Spider-Man movie almost, right? We get all the different Spider-Mans and the old villains back. It's kind of like that. So,
The funny thing
but
is, I mean, it's gonna be fantastic, like No Way Home, but I kind of wish that we would have seen Superman, because supposedly he was cut from this movie
yeah,
too.
I know.
Because I feel like he would have been fantastic
I,
seeing General Zod and the new Supergirl.
do you think there's still any type of hope where they could add it in the last minute just to
No,
say
if
fuck
they
it,
took
we
it
do
out for
this?
Black Adam, they're gonna take it out for this one.
But they did take it out for Black Adam.
They did.
I
All
thought
they
he
had,
was. I thought he was at the end.
they had a silhouette of Superman. You didn't see Superman, and they had a voice dialogue from another movie.
Oh,
The
okay.
actual scenes that Henry Cavill shot for Black Adam, they completely removed,
Mm.
which is stupid. Like, how do you shoot actual scenes with him and then not use him at all?
Well, I mean, I don't know if this is really a great but you look at the non-Snyder cut of the movie that was released, and then the Snyder cut. You're like, how the fuck did you keep all that out? Because they're totally different movies.
Yeah, they're
Totally
drastically
different
different movies.
movies. Drastically different movies. So like I think there's your answer. It's like, but yeah, I mean, I'm excited for the Flash. I'm still, I don't want to say like, you know, pessimistic or whatever for Gunn's vision, but we'll see. I think even though I'm not a superhero guy, not a comic guy, I think I just want to see finally like DC gets a universe like Marvel has been getting. Although now you could kind of argue and say Marvel's oversaturated as shit, but I kind of want to see that already. Like, let's get some continuity.
It's funny that you say that Marvel's oversaturated. I feel like the people that are saying Marvel's oversaturated are not fans of what they're bringing out. Like comic book fans, which I'm not a comic book guy, but I appreciate their work and watching all of it. It's not bad. Like obviously there might be some things here and there that you don't connect with, but most of it's still really good. But if you're not the superheroes, of course it's gonna be trash to you because you're not into that stuff. But I feel like people saying,
I
"Oh, it's going downhill." I'm like, no, I feel like it's the same quality. It's just your interest is lost because you're moving on to new characters.
No, I think that is an accurate uh, statement, no doubt. I mean, because I'm not, and there's a ton of like everything that's probably new in this last wave are things I've never heard of in my entire
Oh,
life.
I wasn't saying you. I'm talking like general, population people.
Oh no, but you could throw. I mean, I feel like my opinion does belong in general pop because, like, of course, like the superheroes, right? Like we were just talking about the Batmans, the Supermans, the Iron Mans, Captain Americas of the world. It's those show superhero ones or these newer movies that are coming out. Like Guardians of the Galaxy, I didn't know who the fuck Guardians of the Galaxy was. I still don't know who the fuck they are.
The funny thing is, I had no idea who they were until the movies, and because of the movies, I'm now a fan of them.
Yeah, so it's like I mean, that's what I'm kind of talking about. And your point's valid. Like I think the actual true and true comic nerds are still having their field days. It's obvious because the numbers are still fantastic. Um, but but yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot.
Yeah, I
and
think
and and and, and it makes you wonder if video games is next
I
with the
hope
recent popularity that's been going on.
I hope it's next because there's a lot of great games that can get so many different you know continuations or franchise spin-offs off of it. But like Castlevania, dude, give me more of their Netflix anime and from like the all different Pokemon characters. I would love to see that. Castlevania, perfect. But going back to DC a little bit here. I kind of feel bad that Snyder and all the other people that were directing a lot of these DC movies, HBO or Warner Brothers was trying to compete with Marvel, and so all these other directors that were doing DC stuff, they were forced to be so quick about all the movies to catch
Mm-hmm.
up to Marvel. That's why they're doing Dawn of Justice before Man of Steel 2 or Batman movie is because they're trying to do a cinematic universe before they really had a foundation to really lay one. And I
Mm-hmm.
kind of feel bad that they got shafted because of Warner Brothers choice, and because of that they still got the backlash even though it wasn't their decision to make all those movies in that order.
True. That is true. And even with though all those not being in order and I guess strict, you know, um, guidelines, I felt like for at least the ones I've saw were pretty good still. Like,
Imagine if they had 10 years worth of time to build it. It
yeah,
would have
no,
been
exactly.
fantastic.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and the casting, in my opinion, was just top notch. Like you saw that person as the superhero, and it's like, oh my god, looks like that could have been the day one person.
Well, it's kind of funny that we say this because, like I said, because the comic book day, I did
Hmm.
read some at the comic book shop, and I did get this one. Mark, um, what's his name? Henry Cavill. I don't know what I was about to call him Mark Henry. Henry
Wow.
Cavill. Um, as much as I think he's the ideal casting for a dark Injustice Superman, your classic comic book Superman, he is the worst fit. He has the physique, but he doesn't have the attributes of your classic Superman. But
As
I
in like Clark Kent version?
like
Like
Clark Kent.
I mean, there's always Clark Kent. Don't get me wrong, but I mean like that.
Also, like his just like mindset and how he goes about things. Because like when you see Man of Steel, he acts like he can't do this stuff, even though technically he's already doing it. And then he also hasn't really discovered his power. Or sorry, in the movie he's already like discovered his powers. When you in the comic book stuff, you see him starting to like come into his ideology, his mindset to become the good guy. But Man of Steel, he's just automatically dropped in, killing 10,000 people with the General Zod fight. But then, yet he plays a weird mental shift. Oh, I gotta save these 5 people, even though technically his whole fight he just killed 10,000 people.
Mhm.
Like his whole mindset as Superman isn't your classic Superman. If that makes
But is
sense.
that Henry Cavill's fault?
No, that's just
Okay.
that's just the version of Superman. Yeah, he's casted. Like I said, Henry Cavill is the best dark Superman that we can never
Mm-hmm.
get.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, there's a lot of people that don't want Henry Cavill as the Dark Superman. They want the classic American Superman.
Mm. Yeah. I just whatever version that he was portraying, I just thought was just
Oh, he did a fantastic job as
just
the Injustice version.
yeah.
That's I
That's
want
it.
to see more. I wish we
As
see
far as
more.
like other, as you're suggesting versions, like I guess I'd have to see it to be a judge, but yeah, it is what it is. Like even I think Affleck got a lot of slack when he was casted, and I felt like he didn't do that awful. Um, Actually, I thought like the good thing about his version was he was actually um, kind of like showed signs of weakness versus not every Batman kind of did. Um, so so yeah,
Dude, there's just so much to talk about. But if they actually give James Gunn a chance, and I'm not just saying James Gunn, but like anybody a chance to develop the actual story and not just cut him off after like 3 4 years, DC has an amazing future ahead of them if they can actually pull it off and not rush it because they have so many
yeah.
great characters. Like, obviously classic DC, Superman, Batman, whatever. I'd love to see a better Green Arrow. I'd love to see some Reverse Flash. I'd love to see what's his name? The green guy, the mutant Martian. I think his name is. Some of those people.
Yeah, I'm like I said, I'm not familiar with everybody, unfortunately.
Yeah, but just seeing the future of like these superhero shows, it's looking pretty good. People on both sides are eating very well.
Yeah.
But I guess we can move on to number three because I even though, like I said, I got a whole bunch of stuff. I can say I will see myself returning back in the future to buy different comic books of stories I'm already invested in. But do you think you would buy any others? But obviously, besides Marvel and DC, would you get into comic books if it was like a linear story?
Man, I think the only way I would get into a comic book is I would have to probably get lost in a store and something would just have to, I guess, just catch my eye and just go take a leap of faith and just buy it and hope it lures me in. Like that's the only way I could do it. Like I wouldn't be able to pick up an IP that's already exists for like, whatever it is, 80 years or 20, 30 years. Like even Walking Dead, I wouldn't be able to go and start buying Walking Dead issues. Like, nah, it just doesn't appeal to me.
Well, The Walking Dead you can get into really quickly
I
because they do have
well,
hardcover versions, which is the complete version.
but the thing is, like, I've already seen a lot of the show, right? So it's like I feel
Well,
like
you've seen
it's
the show, but you didn't see the comic book, which is
no,
are
no,
drastically different.
I understand that. And when I followed the show, I would also follow up how it was different from the comic books. So like that wouldn't work for me. Like I would have to take a leap of faith on something that I've never seen before and hope it lures me in.
I
That's
have
really it. That's really the only way.
I have two things to recommend to you because you never seen The Boys and you never seen Invincible. Start read their comic books. And they're
Boys just doesn't appeal to me. I know it's done by Rogan and everything, but
I don't
I-
think the comic
it's
book is done by Rogan. I think just the show screenwriting is.
no. Well, yeah. I don't know.
I mean, you like
I,
DC.
I'll put it this way. I think I would more than likely pick up an anime of your choice than a comic book of your choice. Put that's my spectrum when it comes to these um you know, cultures that I don't follow, that are very nerdy, that you would think I'd follow. That's where comic books lies. Like, it's below anime.
Okay. I'm just saying, if you're gonna give two a try, Invincible and The Boys might be more down your alley just because you like the DC version.
Hmm.
But moving on to topic number 3 is what is your favorite superhero and what is your favorite fictional superhero?
Well, I'll start with superheroes. I guess I thought we talked about this on the podcast before, but uh, dare I say
But
tie?
I
But
think we
like,
talked about the villain too. I think we talked more about the villain than anything else.
maybe. Um, I, I've always like, even though I'm not hardcore, but I always seem to gravitate towards Batman because like you would think, like, as a kid growing up, you know, everyone likes to fantasize about, oh, what superpower would you have, or what super, you know, therefore superhero equals superpower, versus Batman doesn't have any. His superpower is money. We all love money, or being a detective. So like, I just liked the practical aspect of it rather than the superpower aspect. So that's why I always gravitated and enjoyed Batman, I guess, as my favorite superhero. And
Okay.
I guess if I were to score that a tie, similar mindset, but with Marvel, it would then be Iron Man.
Iron Man. The
Yeah,
the Iron Man of Robert Downey Jr. or a different Iron Man?
yeah, probably Robert Downey Jr. I don't know. Unfortunately, I don't know the version of Iron Man. So,
So one thing I found out, this was odd because
uh-huh.
like I said, I think I'm still pretty like novice when it comes to stuff.
Hmm.
Iron Man isn't actually a staple superhero character. He's actually one of the um characters that were under popular or whatever. And
Mm.
Marvel is the reason why he came up to the spotlight. Like he wasn't like a main superhero.
So did the Avengers then make him popular?
Well, Iron Man 1 is what made Iron Man popular, but then in the comic books, apparently Avengers was, if you're talking about the comic books, the reason why
Yes.
he became more popular.
Okay. Okay. Interesting.
But it's just kind of funny because I was like, oh, obviously they started off with Hulk and then Iron Man and all that stuff. And I'm like, they clearly have to be staple characters. Iron Man wasn't one of those main heroes at first,
Interesting.
which I
That's
thought
funny.
was really funny that they created like this underappreciated character and brought him to the spotlight and make him one of the most favorite superheroes, of all time now.
Yeah, that's very interesting. But like, once again, like, we were just talking about. Sorry, not to segue back into like our last topic a little bit, but like, you know, just talking about. In my opinion, right now, what I'm about to say might be a little ignorant, but going back to how we're saying Cavill really good for Superman, et cetera, et cetera. But like, you know, Robert Downey Jr. and Iron Man just seems like the perfect marriage. My opinion is extremely biased because I don't know anything else about Iron Man, but like,
No, it
I
seems like
think,
he embodies the persona, and almost everybody
yeah,
agrees about it.
yeah. So,
It's weird. They've done really like whoever is like casting these live action superheroes are doing a phenomenal job. Like obviously, Henry Cavill. I don't know why I'm gonna say Mark Henry. Henry
Mark
Cavill.
Henry is actually a wrestler, which is funny. Every time you say it, like, that's a wrestler.
Yeah, I know, and he's not even the same race.
Yeah.
But Henry Cavill is the ideal Dark Superman, just like Robert Downey Jr. basically is the rich boy personified, arrogant, but also
Hmm.
superhero like. But they also casted Chris Hemsworth as Thor.
Hmm.
I know people
And
are gonna debate on the Spider-Man thing, but I think Tom Holland is fantastic as the new Spider-Man.
hmm.
Um, they just seem to have nailed all their characters that they've casted. Like they
Hmm.
basically embody the characteristics and persona of them.
Yeah. And if memory serves me correct, and I don't mean to fall too off the rails with our topic here, but if memory serves me correct, the Robert Downey Jr. casting was actually very heavily criticized at the start because he used to have really bad like drug addictions, right, and stuff before the Iron Man casting. So like, I think he even came out and attributed that role to turning his own life around, which is just another huge layer and awesome part of that story.
Well, not only that, but the movie before Iron Man that Robert Downey Jr. was in was actually Tropic Thunder.
Oh, that's even more hilarious.
So like his career was like not in a good spot, but because of
Yeah,
Iron Man, it resurrected him and gave him a good,
yeah,
basically better life.
yeah, which is awesome. Anyway, so that's my choice for favorite superhero. I'll segue it to you as I think
Think of your
about my
fictional.
favorite fictional character because that was the one I was stumped on when you kind of gave the topic, and I'm still kind of stumped on it.
Okay, so favorite superhero. This one, I it would have been Batman easily,
Hmm.
but seeing more Spider-Man playing the games again and playing some of the other games like Web of Shadows, Edge of Dimensions, or Shadow Dimensions, and all that stuff,
Hmm.
Spider-Man just took over as my number one favorite superhero. Just because I love the story, I love how he's the only superhero that doesn't get any financial aid at all. He is the broke superhero
Oh,
that basically carries the world on his shoulders,
hmm.
fighting the worst villains, like basically the most powerful villains ever,
Hmm.
all by himself, and he has to handle all these other superheroes at the same time. Like, give the poor man a break. He has too much on his plate.
And
Um,
I think the other layer, and sorry, I didn't. Hopefully, I'm not cutting you out there, getting your thoughts out. But I think the other big point to that for a lot of people is the fact that he is a kid, right? He's a teenager, and a lot of people, even though if they're not teenagers now, they still have that memory of when they were. So it kind of brings them back to a point of their time in their life as a teenager. So I can see, yeah, how that one would be a popular one.
yeah, and then not to mention, his how do you say it? His collaborations or cameos with other characters are also just perfect in every single way. Like with the X Men, Deadpool, which I didn't know they did a collaboration until recently because like I said, they were telling me about it, and just the classic Spider Man being the good guy, being nice, and meeting up with characters like Logan and Deadpool that are very foul mouthed, just kill is really
Hmm.
funny.
Hmm.
And then also seeing like some of the interdimensional stuff, like obviously across the Spider Verse, which there's more stuff. House of M, more stuff with the mutants. Like he just has many, like every variation of him. Spider Man has a great story. Then also if you're gonna give off handoff characters, Miles Morales, not the comic book version because apparently he sucks, but like the game version, the movie version are actually pretty good.
Not that one. That one sucks.
But like same thing with like Gwen Stacy, Spider Girl, and all that stuff. Like it seems like even if they don't have Peter Parker and Peter Parker kind of like hands the torch off or the mantle to somebody else, it's still a good version of it. So like I'm just gonna go Spider Man just because overall story is just fantastic. Second still Batman. If I'm going fictional character,
Hmm.
I want to go with Omni Man from Invincible. I'm gonna go with Edward Elric from Full Metal Alchemist because
I
I
don't know
just
who that
I,
is.
so it's an anime. I know you're not gonna get into it,
Yeah,
but go
no,
ahead.
go. No, no, no. Go ahead.
So Edward Elric, he's siblings with his brother Alphonse Elric. They do alchemy, which is basically their version of like science, but it can do like things like transmute stuff from like they do certain things with the ground. It can transmute into like an object and all that stuff. But because of that, they're trying to bring their mother back from the dead. Because of that, they lose their body parts as the exchange, and they realize that they can't bring the dead back to life. So their whole journey is to get their bodies back from their mistake. But then at the same time, they're uncovering government secrets of mass genocide and all that stuff. And Edward Elric is just one of those characters that he's still like I think he's like 13 or 14 years old during this journey. He's got to go through a lot of dark stuff, fight a lot of these characters, but also still holding true to like moral compasses, like helping just random civilians that are in need and fighting bad guys, but also not killing them at the same time, but still have to maybe make that tough choice and kill one of them if it needs to be done. And I just feel like Edward Elric or just Elric brothers in general are just really well written characters.
So you really like, or that's your favorite fictional character because of their backstory.
Overall story,
Or
everything.
overall, well, yeah, overall story, backstory, over story. Okay. Unfortunately, like I I I still have a hard time answering this because like I feel like I don't have one. As crazy as that sounds, because like I obviously adore a lot of different RPs, right? Like, I mean, we'll go to gaming, right? You got Mario, you got Zelda, you got Pokemon. Sticking with gaming, but not Nintendo. Final Fantasies, Warcraft. You see behind me. I mean, I'm into wrestling. You could arguably say every single wrestler is a fictional character to some capacity, right? Like I have so many, and then it's like I feel like an easy way to answer would be like, you could have, oh, well, who do you have a tattoo of? Well, I have zero tattoos. However, if I were to get one, I always said the tattoo I would get, although it wouldn't be a character, but it'd be still the IP. It would have been Zelda related. So it makes me want to lean towards Link as my favorite fictional character. Um,
The guy with no words.
the guy with no words, but so many different backstories and different timelines.
That's fair.
um, I mean, it's and kind of maybe it's also no pun intended, flavor of the month, hell, flavor of the week, flavor of the 24 hours from now. um, riding that roller coaster wave. Just the childhood memories. And I'll hopefully get more memories starting tomorrow. Um, yeah, it's funny you say the guy with no words, but many facial expressions.
Oh yeah,
Um,
T.
yeah. Yeah, just let everybody else do the talking for me. um, yeah, I guess that would be my favorite one. To give a half-assed answer, I was kind of leaning towards Pikachu for not really backstory, but like just mainly going to just the. I mean, it's really Pokemon as a whole, but obviously Pikachu is the mascot, the catalyst, and the way Pokemon transcends generations. Um, is to me still one of the more impressive things of all different types of medias and forms of entertainment, right? Like I mean, I think Pokemon Go really assisted with that transcendence of generations, no doubt. But like, you point at some little cartoon monster character. A lot of elderly people or older people that don't know Pokemon will be like, "Oh, Pikachu." Like, no, that's not Pikachu, but it's a Pokemon, but it's not Pikachu. So like like I think Pikachu's so also well um, renowned that it could be many people's fictional character. But for me, I'm gonna stick with Link. It is a little apropos with Tears of the Kingdom releasing tomorrow. Free plug Nintendo. Uh,
Yeah. Are
but
you going to, but, not to go too far, but are you going to the midnight release tomorrow?
midnight release is in the comfort of my own home.
Oh, so you
I
bought it
th-
digitally.
so, yeah, so right, we didn't have a podcast last week, so I actually canceled my physical pre-order, and this is the very first game ever, at least full like big time game, not like a small indie type game, a full major game that I actually purchased digitally. So. So the moment 11 p.m. hits, if Nintendo is good on their word, my preloaded, downloaded, installed game right now should unlock and allow me to play.
So I'm gonna be careful. So I am going to the midnight. Well, I don't. I call it the midnight release, but it's not actually
Yeah.
midnight. So my GameStop is releasing at 10 o'clock. They have contests and prizes and cosplays, all that before that, which I'm looking forward to. Once I get the game, because it is an hour early, and Nintendo's very strict about these things, I am not going to stream until after the embargo lifts for the
Mm,
US to
good.
happen at 11 o'clock
Smart.
because they're copywriting everybody, and it's
And
pretty
they
bad.
should. And they should. I actually, and I'm not saying that like in a stance where I'm jealous or hating on people that are playing it early. I'm not. I really think that this is one of your IPs that you want to protect as much as you can. I would say that with a lot of different IPs. Like you got to protect your babies. And this is one of their big babies.
But going back to Pikachu because I
Sure.
want to hit you with the on the spot trivia. And
Oh,
there's two trivia questions here. So, what is Pokemon's first original name?
Pocket Monster?
Yeah,
Okay. I was like, for a second, I'm damn, this sounds like a trick question, but I'm gonna go straight, shoot it from the hip. Pocket Monster.
it is Pocket Monster. And okay, now this is the first one. What is the
Okay.
first Pokemon ever created? Not in the Pokédex, ever created.
Yeah, I should know this, and I'll just be honest, I don't because I could have known this if I read more into social media because I've seen this posted before. I'm just I honestly I don't know the answer.
So it's Rhydon. The Rhydon is the
Ah,
first Pokemon ever created, and they even put that as an Easter egg. Whenever you like play the original games and you see the statues, it's of Rhydon or like a Pokemon resembling Rhydon.
yes,
That's
like all the
because
Pokemon gyms. Yeah,
yep, that's because it's the first Pokemon ever drawn or created.
interesting. That's cool.
Which I think is funny that he's like number 47 in the Pokédex, but he's the
Yeah,
first Pokemon ever created.
yeah. Well, I don't know if I shared it with you, but I know I shared it with a group friend chain and a couple others. But there was like I guess a meme or whatever. Maybe Rhydon was one of the choices. I'm gonna have to dig it back up. But it says which Pokemon is the original. It's kind of similar to this question. Which Pokemon is the original number one? And there's Bulbasaur, Mew.
Arceus and
Maybe it was maybe it was Arsene and then
well,
probably
I
Rhydon
put this
then.
poll on Twitter a couple months ago, so maybe you've seen my poll and you just posed it to your friends.
No, no, it wasn't your poll. It was something else. I would have remembered if it was your poll. I've seen your poll before. No, it's funny that you did it though, but I no, I didn't see that one. But that was some great trivia.
Yeah,
That's good.
it's funny because if you have to specifically word it because people are automatically going to think Bulbasaur because it's number one in
Yeah.
the Pokédex,
Hmm.
but it's not the first Pokemon ever created.
Yeah.
No, most of the people will say Bulbasaur, which is hilarious, or they'll say
Yeah.
Arceus because they were like, "Oh, look at me, I'm being edgy. It's the god of Pokemon. That's
Yeah.
the first one."
Exactly.
I'm like, "No, that's not the
Or
first one."
or some people spend it with Mew because Mew's DNA, blah blah blah. Like yeah.
Yeah,
But if you say like ever created in the form of like created out of how many Pokemon there are now? 1,000 like 10 or something. I don't even know anymore. Like even I'm falling off a little bit.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, that's cool. That's some good trivia there.
So going back to me, because
Mm-hmm.
even though I said Edward Elric is my favorite fictional
Mm-hmm.
character, I
Mm-hmm.
actually have two other characters that are like a two and three,
Cool.
and two is actually two people, and you might know them if you watch them, maybe not. But so number three is Chappie. He's a robot from a movie called Chappie, and I just love his character so much. You know, him being a sentient AI, created from humans, and he's learning the human methods, and then he realized that humans are kind of bad, so he has to create his own method of living and being, good. Second one is Caesar from Planet of the Apes, and
Mm,
Cornelius, his son.
interesting.
I just love the politics of Planet of the Apes. I don't know why. I love seeing the fall of humanity because of a disease created to basically cure Alzheimer, and then after the fall of civilization, Caesar has to create a safe haven for his other apes that haven't evolved yet, and then obviously with the war of humans, disease, and the apes, just seeing his trilogy come to an end, and then seeing his son Cornelius take over as apes truly take over the world is just it's a great story.
Whatever happened to that franchise as a movie? Weren't they supposed to finish it off?
They
Is there
did.
one on the horizon? No, they did finish it already.
I don't know if they're going to do another one, but with Caesar, they finished his trilogy. So they
Mm,
have Rise of the Planet of the Apes, they have Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, and they have War of the Planet of the Apes. And that's the whole trilogy with Caesar because he died. Well,
yeah.
spoiler alert, he dies at the end
Mm-hmm.
of War.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But yeah, those are my three top fictional characters. I love the story and the world of Planet of the Apes, which I feel like doesn't get enough love as it used to, which is weird because if you look at the animation now, like CG, the character, and just the acting,
It was phenomenal for its
Caesar did
time.
a great. I mean, I forgot the actual guy's name. He's the one that played
Was it?
Gollum and some other
Yeah, I
people.
was gonna say. Yeah, I forget his name. Precious.
But like anything that guy has ever been in has always been fantastic. He's been in Andor. He's been obviously Gollum, like I said. Caesar. He's also been in Black Panther. He's the guy that takes vibranium. He's just good in every single role he's in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Um. So to kind of like, I talked about how I don't have tattoos, and if I were, um, I don't believe you have any tattoos, right?
None that you can see. No, I'm just joking. No, I don't have any.
So with that said, I kind of base my answer off tattoo. Out of your favorite fictional characters you gave, would any of those possibly be a tattoo for you? If you were to get one, I'm not, if you were to get one.
So I actually have thought about getting a tattoo, and my answer is very extreme because I would go with two sleeves. I know that's a huge jump from having no tattoos.
Actually, to your point, mine would have actually also be pretty drastic from going from nothing to something large capacity, but it was going to be my whole upper back from left to right shoulder blade.
So I'll explain my tattoo design, and you could explain yours if you want to do it. But so I have two things that I want to make. For my left and right arm, I want to have Shinron from Dragon Ball Z go all the way up my arm, like uh, basically wrapping
Spiraling.
around, up here, and you have a whole bunch of like anime and fictional characters fighting it, trying to kill it. And on the right hand side, you have Rayquaza because they're both green
Mm-hmm.
dragons, and you
Mm-hmm.
have video game characters fighting Rayquaza on this arm. Like you have like Kratos, Master
All
Chief.
the Smash Brothers characters.
No, not Smash. Like from all like things. Like you'd see like
Yeah.
Kratos, Master Chief, um, Edward Elric or whatever. Like you would see a whole bunch of different people fighting Rayquaza on all different levels of his body, trying to
Mm-hmm.
take him down. And the same thing
Mm-hmm.
on this arm. You'd have Shinron being taken down by other fictional characters. And at the
Cool.
end, on my shoulders, it's both dragons' heads going.
Raw, motherfucker, raw. That's cool. No, that's actually a cool design. I always liked like the mashup or the yeah, pretty much the mashup type of tattoos. Like there was a years and years ago, there was a coworker that had some pretty cool video game slash, I guess anime related ones. Like he had a Kirby sucking in Dragon Balls, which I thought was pretty cool. He
Yo, I
had
just pictured like it's down here. He actually tattoos his balls to be Dragon Balls, and it's Kirby on top just sucking his balls.
no, he actually had it on one of his pecs, but what else did he have? He had some other mashup that I thought was pretty badass, and then unfortunately it's escaped me. So I guess maybe it wasn't as badass. But yeah, I always liked those type of tattoos that are really creative and cool.
If you want to be cool, on your nipples you should get Zelda hearts. Each nipple's a Zelda heart.
One will be half filled. Yeah, no. The one other mock-up idea I had was to have the Triforce, and then every piece of Triforce would have a different IP that I adore. Like one would have been the Final Fantasy VII logo, which is basically the meteor hitting the planet. Another triangle would be a Pokeball, and then the other triangle would have been the Warlock logo from Warcraft, since that's consumed a major portion of my life. And then and then instead of the Master Sword going through the Triforce, I would have
The
the
Buster
sword of
Blade.
no, the sword of Omen from Thundercats. So once again, just a bunch of different IPs kind of combined into one nice looking tattoo. I started, well, not really drawing it, but I created like a concept art of it. But the concept art looks like shit, so I would need like an actual artist to kind of make it look sexy.
Yeah. There's actually so the style. If I was to get one, like I said, the sleeves that I want, which are pretty extreme because apparently sleeves are really expensive and it takes a
I
lot of
think,
time to do.
yeah, I think the one that I actually got a quote, I guess. It was gonna be like over $3,000, and it would have been like 2.5 hour sessions or something like that.
Yeah. But there's so I really like picture the art style I wanted in because even though I have the idea for characters and what I want, there's also like a certain like art style you want to be drawn in. There's
Mhm.
this Pokemon Go YouTuber. Her name is Pokemon Master Holly, and she has a tattoo of Pokemon on her leg, on her like her thigh, and whatever style or graphic she used or the tattoo artist used, I love it. It looks beautiful. and I would love to see that style like on my arms.
I think the benefit though with your idea, if you chose to, because like you said, it would be expensive to get it all done, but since yours has a lot of different components to it, like you really could just pay as you go, right? So it's like, okay, dragons are probably first, right? So that'd be your first part. And then every character is like, okay, this paycheck, this paycheck, this paycheck, this paycheck, you know? So it's like you don't have to really do it all at once.
Yeah, it's funny because my original design for the dragons, even though I said they're gonna meet at my shoulders, it was originally
Mm.
supposed to be like them trying to bite my neck.
Mm.
But I'm like, no, you don't want to show, so I'm like, just keep it at the shoulders.
Yeah.
But then I was also thinking about, so there's a show I watch, I've been a fan of since 2005, ended like 2 years ago. It's called Supernatural, and they have a tattoo on their chest like of like a reverse pentagram to revert like to so they can't get possessed by demons. I'm like, I'd like that symbol, and then same thing with like the berserk symbol, which is from an anime, which is the same thing about demons. And I put that in that pentagram as like a reverse pentagram, but then also the berserk symbol to show anti-demon, like
Mm.
put my heart.
Yeah. I mean, like I've never. I think I don't think I've ever get a tattoo anymore. But like, uh, I guess when I was younger, I kind of fancied them. But then the older I got, the less and less uh, desire I have. Like, and liked them. I don't know.
Oh, dude, I so this is gonna be pretty wrong, but I remember going on Reddit to get like tattoo designs because I don't know if I'm gonna get one or not. I kind of do, but like I said, I don't know. But I was looking at tattoo ideas, and for some reason on Reddit, it was like a dick pic, and it was of his balls tattooed as an elephant, and his dick was a trunk. And
Hmm.
I thought that was the most hilarious tattoo design I've ever seen. I'm like, yo, that's a ballsy move there, Cotton. I'm like, that probably had to hurt a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
But I'm like, if you're gonna tattoo something down there, an elephant with his eyes and trunk, that makes sense. It was just a tiny trunk. It
Like, damn, it actually looks more like a woolly mammoth than an elephant.
looks more like an anteater than an elephant.
But no, yeah. So that's those are my answers, and maybe if I had a longer thought on it, but yeah, sticking with Link.
So to have a third part to this, because I was actually
Sure.
gonna pose this at a different time, but I don't think I'm gonna do
Mm-hmm.
it because the time's already passed.
Mm-hmm.
And this could either be from opinions or statistics. What do you think is the most popular superhero of all time?
Mm. Hmm.
Because what I looked up while you think, and obviously these are all every number I've seen has always been like different. It seems like the top two superheroes of all time is Spider-Man and then Batman, but the rankings constantly switch up either between Batman being first or Spider-Man being one. So it seems like those two seem to be in almost everybody's top picks.
Mm-hmm.
But then Superman's number three, and it's consistently number three. And I'm like,
Mm.
I feel like there's way better superheroes than Superman.
Well, I think like uh, before you even shared that, I was leaning towards Batman, and I just the reason being is because of mostly longevity, right? Um, I mean, I don't know exactly. I don't know dates of who, uh, um, came out first, and all that stuff. But I know Batman has been a pretty OG and out for a very, very, very long time. Same with Superman, but I believe Batman has maybe some years. So with that said, that was kind of what I was going to lean towards, and Spider-Man is interesting to be that one to combat um, Batman.
So this is shocking. I just looked this up right now. I had no idea this was a thing. Superman first appeared in Action Comics number one in June 1938.
Wow.
I had no idea Superman's that old. And then
Yeah.
Batman made his first appearance in the pages of Detective Comics in issue number 27 in May 1939.
So after, interesting.
Yeah, so Superman came first, Batman came after, but supposedly Superman gains in popularity significantly over Batman.
Hmm.
Or sorry, Batman gains.
Batman game popular, yeah.
Yeah, over Superman. Let's see, who came out first, Batman or Spider Man? Let's see. Oh, Spider Man is a relatively new character. He came out in 1962, so Batman has 30 something years on him, or 20 something years on him. That's crazy. I didn't realize that Spider Man only came out in 1962.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know the exact years, but I felt like I knew that, obviously the DC ones for that matter have years on Spider-Man, but even before these comic, like the ones we know of today, like I'm almost certain, I don't know the facts, but I feel pretty confident to say, like, because of newspapers, right? Like, superheroes existed before even the ones we know today, except they just, weren't favorites, right? They weren't, like, popular. Um, I mean, you look at something, I mean, it's not a superhero, but you look at something like Mickey Mouse. I mean, shit, Mickey Mouse
Or like the
probably
comic
has
strips, like Garfield and
like
all them.
so many, yeah, so many years on all these guys.
I, it would be interesting. I'm not gonna do it now because I feel like it's not fitting. But like, I want to know who like the first illustrated character ever was.
Oh man.
That'd be an interesting discovery. But so going back to the most popular, it seems like statistics are either back and forth between Spider-Man and Batman. I'm gonna say this now. In my opinion, I think Spider-Man is more popular because of Spider-Man himself. I feel like Batman's only popular not because of Batman himself, but because of his villains. And I know I've talked about that before. I think the only reason why Batman is as popular as he is isn't because of him alone. It's because of everyone he's been paired up against.
Well, like Joker famously says, "You need me."
Yeah,
No, I think there's truth to that. I think it helps, right? Like if you look at any major superhero and their married villain per se, I think Joker really is on top, right? I mean, what's the next comp? When you start going into like the super villain aspect, like the Dark Seeds and the Thanoses, like that's not the true married villain, right? That's like the super fucking villain. If you put the marriage like the Lex Luthor versus or with Superman, and then I mean,
I
I'll be
feel like
honest, when it comes to
Spider-Man does
Marvel,
have an iconic villain like Joker, and that's Green Goblin. Because Green Goblin has that kind of like psychotic, I am your counterpart, I am going to kill everything you love.
I mean, my opinion is a little invalid, but even though yeah, that's probably the married one, but I don't know why. I want to think that the Daily Bugle guy was his.
Oh, what's his name? J. Jonah Jameson or something like that.
I don't. I don't remember the name, but like I don't know why in my head I kept thinking that like is the newspaper guy his villain?
He's
So,
always set it up from writing articles.
uh, so yeah, I yeah. I mean, it's just Joker. Like he's up there, right? I mean, so many people want to emulate him as well. Um, it definitely does help Batman's cause, 110%.
All right. So the final question before we wrap this up, who do you feel deserves to be higher up on the superhero list? I know you're not in like
Ooh,
who you personally like. This is an opinion.
yeah, yeah.
What character do you like the most that should be ranked
I
higher?
should have more recognition.
Yeah.
Ooh, I like that one. That's a good one. Um, hmm.
I can tell you mine right now, and it's simply 100% biased for recent events. Guardians of the Galaxy's Rocket Raccoon.
Mm-hmm.
Just
Mm-hmm.
because his backstory is extremely sad, and seeing how he progressed into the character he is, I would love to see him higher. But second would be Doctor Strange.
I feel like my opinion is I don't want to say tainted, but hurt because I don't know a large array of superheroes, right?
Well, this is the opinion part, so it doesn't matter.
Uh,
Like whatever you like is what
no,
matters.
no, I know, but well, but to that point, like I don't know a wide range, right? Like like I mentioned earlier, where uh, like there's all these TV shows and even movies now of superheroes I've never heard of. Um, hmm, one that should get more recognition that doesn't. Hmm, because I played like the Arkham games. Like, I mean, it's kind of like it's a cop out answer, but it's kind of easy to say Robin because he's always he's Robin. He's always
I was
he's
about to make it worse on you. I'm like, which version of Robin? There's like 9 versions of
yeah,
Robin.
I know. But like I feel like that's a cop
No, you can say that.
out.
Go ahead.
I want to give something better, but I can't. I don't really. I like for Marvel, and this might be a funny and comical answer, but like growing up, I don't know if I ever shared this on the podcast, but growing up as a kid, my favorite movie and the movie that was always put on for me when I was crying like a little baby was Howard the Duck. And Howard the Duck is in the Marvel universe, so
Well, he's
maybe Howard
in
the Duck.
Guardians of the Galaxy.
I know, and I was like, maybe Howard the Duck needs more recognition. Maybe Howard the Duck deserves his own, standing movie again. Because
Well,
George Lucas didn't do it justice.
if Howard the Duck is gonna be up there, then we got to get Peter Porker up there too. Spider-Man, or it's basically Spider Pig. That's what he is.
Yeah, so I'll go with that.
All right, that's a that's a unique and very good
Yes.
answer because Howard the Duck is a favorite to a lot of people just for the comic, relief and all the other stuff. So, yeah, we'll go. I think he's also played by Seth Green too.
In Guardians of the Galaxy?
Who is how? Let me see. I think it's Seth Green, but I could be wrong on this. Who
That would be interesting.
voices Howard the Duck? It is Seth Green.
Oh, that's interesting. That's funny.
I'm gonna show my screen right now, but
Yeah.
he voices him in Guardians of the Galaxy 2 and 3.
Oh wow, that's funny. I did not know that.
Yeah, but that's really there's a little scene at the end of Guardians of the Galaxy. Yeah, it's also really funny with Howard the Duck. But I think that's gonna wrap it up. For those who are watching video, if you see me blow my nose a lot, I am sorry. I'm still really congested. I'm not fully over my sickness. I don't know what's happening, but I'm still very congested. But thank you for bearing with. But that we will be back next Friday, I believe.
Back to our regular scheduled podcast time. Yeah,
Yeah.
I would say so.
Normal time, but expect a lot of Zelda talk because Tears of the Kingdom's coming out. We're going to be really excited. Who knows? I might even have prizes from my midnight release events. So you might see me with some things.
To brag about. Nice.
But thank you guys so much for watching. Like I said, like we say every single episode, if there's anything we talked about in this in this episode that you want to share and expand upon, feel free to leave in the comments below. We'd love to hear your opinions. If you're wrong, right, what you disagreed with. All that matters. But we will see you in the next one. Peace.
Peace.